kind of realized that we have this influence that, we should kind of steward well within the community. And a lot of people in these communities, they want to give. So we just try to find opportunities to let them support organizations they want to support. But that's kind of where the whole thing kind of comes together.
Welcome to episode 76 of The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. I'm your host, Janine with my co-host, Ryan Hatcher.
What's up, guys?
And our guest today is Matt Dallas. Matt lives in Gilbert with his not two wives. You have one wife, two daughters. Let's make that clear.
Yes.
2 dogs and a rabbit. Love that. He started working with the N2 company in 2014 and currently operates all 3 Stroll publications, Gilbert. So you have Agritopia, Seville, and Val Vista Lakes. Yep. And the focus is to make a positive difference in Gilbert, specifically through the communities they serve. They do this 3 ways: connecting neighbors, introducing businesses, and giving through partnerships with nonprofits, all the things that we align with as well. So Matt, we're excited to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this will be really fun because as we were talking before we started, you have an amazing background in marketing, and you did a class, and then you did a class that Summer went to, and we all have loved it and learned so much.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think your heart really comes through. I was very hesitant about connecting with any magazines, and just because I haven't had the greatest experiences in the past, and I think you can totally see your heart, and it comes through. So
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. So I grew up in upstate New York, and then over time kind of bounced around different parts of the country, and I've been out here now for, I guess, almost 25 years.
Wow, it goes fast.
Or almost 20 years, being back out here. So it's my 3rd Arizona stint.
Are you here to stay? Is Arizona?
At this point.
Okay, we like it too.
Yeah, but the short version is I grew up in upstate New York, went to school in Philadelphia for a year, played baseball there for a year, and then ended up in Tucson for a year, back to New York to finish college, and then moved around, and now I'm here. So.
Did you study marketing in college? What was your...
Kind of. So I was a psychology major, which I think marketing is really psychology. Mm-hmm. And I was a double major with business and psychology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then fast forward to today, how did you get into publication?
That's a good question. So people are like, were you a journalism major?
Right.
No. So I was always, I would say, kind of entrepreneurial. When I was little, I would go buy penny candies and sell them for 5 cents.
Love it.
Nice.
By the way, that's always a sign that your kid is gonna become an entrepreneur if they like to resell their candy.
Something, right? I had my daughter, she was selling those little things you put on Crocs. She made a killing at her school selling those.
There you go, you got a little entrepreneur.
I had a buddy that would go buy ponchos, the little cheap ponchos, and take them to football games.
Yeah,
and sell them for $4, right? Smart. So he made $3 on every, and he would, because it was raining, they had to have it.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, so I don't know, I think it was always kind of in my blood, so to speak. But when I finished high school, I went and did Cutco. So I sold Cutco knives for, kind of off and on for 7 years. And then from there, I went into corporate America, did corporate things, corporate sales, EDP, sold payroll, a bunch of different stuff. And then I was just kind of over it. And I was between jobs. I had left my prior job. I was about to start a new job. And it was actually, I looked this up. Do you know that every 11 years the calendar kind of repeats? Oh. So 11 years ago, Easter was on the same, everything was exactly the same as this year. So 11 years ago, probably today, I decided I didn't want to take this new job. And I wanted to do something for myself. And I had some friends from when I had worked at Cutco that were doing magazines and doing publications. And I said, hey, tell me how that works. And I just decided that's what I was going to do. Wow. So I called my new employer. And it was a big company. It was I went through this whole process. But I called the new employer and said, hey, I can't take the job. She's like, well, what are you going to do? And I told her, I'm going to start a neighborhood newsletter. Yeah. And she thought I was crazy. Yeah. Which maybe I was. But that's how it started. So that was 11 years ago, this week.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Good timing. Yeah. What did your wife think about that at the time?
Oh my gosh. She was supportive, but she was probably scared to death because she's a very like security driven person. Like
Most
she
of
has a
us
corporate
women are,
job.
yes.
I understand that.
And this was like a total leap of faith,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, the way it works is it's not like a 9 to 5 job, right? Like it took me 8 months before I made any money. So of like just grinding and building and all the things that it takes to start a new business. So I think she was glad when I finally got it launched.
Yeah.
You know, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
And that's how Stroll began.
Yeah, that's how. So I started Val Vista Lakes first. Okay. Yeah, so that was in 2014. Started the Val Vista Lakes.
And I'm assuming you lived there. No,
I didn't at the time.
Okay.
We were in Chandler, but we just liked the neighborhood, and you know, we wanted to move, and we ended up moving into Val Vista Lakes, and then moving again within Val Vista Lakes. So we like it.
Why did you land on Stroll, the name?
Oh, so it has nothing to do with me. So we're a franchise organization.
Okay.
We have about 1,000 locations, including like Real Producers is like one of our brands, and so before it was called Life on the Lakes. So in Val Vista Lakes when I started, it was Life on the Lakes, and then they did a corporate rebrand, and the rebrand name was Stroll. So I was kind of I kind of preferred my names for my neighborhoods, but you know, I can understand why they had a rebrand.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And so you started with 1, now you have 3.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's challenging, but I love it.
And you are really great at the creative side of things, and that you are really helpful with designing an ad or putting together content that just looks visually appealing. Like, where did that come from?
So when I was doing Cutco, are you guys familiar with Cutco knives? Yeah. Okay, so at one point I opened.
So
Exactly.
of course
Yeah, so, of course. So at one point I started different offices, right? So I would open an office and recruit people to sell Cutco. And back then, it's 25 years ago. Yeah, it's 25 years ago. So 25 years ago, I opened my first office, and you had to advertise in the newspaper, and it was all classified ads, and you had to have a square thing, like black and white, that would stand out in hundreds of ads, and you had to attract the right type of person to the business, right? And that's not easy. And I kind of learned, and I kind of used maybe some psychology and different things to figure out how to put an ad together that would attract the right kind of person with the right expectations and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed that part. So I enjoyed the psychology of how do you put kind of words and pictures together to make something that is engaging, that somebody's attracted to, that they want to be part of.
Yeah.
So you're a
that's where I
psychology.
started.
You're a psychology major, but you didn't do marketing. So then, how did you get into the marketing psyche? Like, how did you learn how to do that? Did you take courses?
I think a lot of I did. But I think a lot of it is psychological, right? And I think the psychology plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to do a lot of Coursera courses. Are you familiar with Coursera? So there's so many great courses on Coursera, and I guess if somebody's watching and they don't know, it's like free online classes. You can pay to get certificates, but one that I took was neuromarketing, and it's a class through I think it's like Copenhagen Business School or in Denmark or something like that, and it was all about how visual words and pictures influence people's behavior, which I think is super intriguing. Right?
Can you elaborate on some of that?
Yeah. So this guy who started a business out of it, but he was a professor there. I think he's still a professor. He was really intrigued by how all this works, and how just having something on a piece of paper or anywhere, right? Like one of the examples he used was like Times Square and all the ads, right? Like how do you make an ad in Times Square with hundreds of crazy ads, how do you make it stand out? And there's some key things that are very consistently effective. And they studied this, they used, this kind of experiment that they did, they used eye tracking software and then brainwave, they hooked these people up to brainwave things and eye tracking, and they saw how they interact with advertisements in relation to how they make purchases, like where their eyes go, how the certain ads influence what they buy, and I just think that's super intriguing. So that was one of the classes, and I've taken like all these marketing classes and all this stuff. And I try to read a lot too. So I read a lot of books.
I remember my very first marketing class in college, I learned that grocery stores, how they set up the like 4 major food things on opposite corners, and then even the color of the flooring in each of those sections impacts how you buy, how you purchase.
But it's all subconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard. So I've done different workshops, like the marketing workshop, but I've done this advertising workshop where I say the best thing about advertising and the worst thing is kind of the same, because a lot of it happens on a subconscious level. And with that class, like they did this experiment and they found that the short version of it is they showed people ads, and the longer ad that they saw, the more likely they were to buy that product. But nobody attributed the ad to why they bought the product. Most of them didn't even remember the ad, but they showed them the ads, then they put them in the store and they bought the product, and their eyes didn't go to other products as much either.
Interesting.
So if they had seen a certain ad for a certain amount of time, their eyes were drawn to like that product.
It's so interesting. I was in a class yesterday and they were talking about YouTube thumbnails. So the little image that you see on YouTube before you click on the video. And the most successful thumbnails have a person's face and with really bright teeth and bright eyes. And so there's software that you can use that will give you brighter teeth and whiter eyes.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
People see faces. Like faces are, people are drawn to people's faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those subconscious kind of things.
I want to know more about the class you taught.
Which one? So I've done a few of these.
Really?
Yeah.
So
like
tell us about those. What are they?
So here's kind of what I learned 10 years ago when I started the publication, is that there was things that I knew that I could share with my clients that not only would make their ad more effective, but make just their overall business more effective. And I found that people, like if you want to kind of talk about specifically about what we do, like I think a lot of people sign up for the same reasons, but I think they stay with us for different reasons. So what I try to do is create value for people in different ways. So for example, like one class we've done is we did the art and science of advertising. So I had a guy who was kind of an artist and designed ads, and he was a local professor, and he talked about the art side of it. And then I talked more about the science side of it and the psychology. I've done this marketing workshop. So the marketing workshop I've probably done the most. I kind of have like the life cycle of marketing and I kind of go from A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? So it's kind of like from marketing A to F, and the whole from first becoming aware of a brand to the whole process, and then what they do afterwards, like their future behavior. So that's been pretty popular. And just other workshops that we could do to help the business, not necessarily help them specifically with what we're doing, but just try to bring value to that, to our clients. Yeah.
Which I do think you do really well. And again, that's why we will stay, that. Right? Just because it's not just here, I want your ad.
Yeah.
There's so much more, in today's world where we're being marketed at more than ever before, it's kind of insane. How do you stand out? Like, how do you show that you're different or grab people's attention? What do you think?
I mean, that's a hard thing. I mean, our attention is so fragmented, right? I mean, everybody
scrolling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the scrolling. It's just everywhere you look, there's something. You know, the way I've kind of boiled down marketing, I think it's about attention and influence. So first, you have to get their attention, and then you have to find a way to influence them to engage with your brand. And I think it's about trying to find the right people where they're at. And if you can figure out, like sometimes I try to get my clients to just think about who's your ideal client, where's their attention going, who are they. We talk about, and I don't know if someone mentioned this, but like we talk about demographics and psychographics. And it's not just how old they are, if they're male or female, if they're, where they live, but it's about, maybe the music they listen to or the kind of car that they drive, like psychologically how they think about things. So you try to figure out like who they are and where's their attention going and try to be there, and then with a message that resonates with them.
Yeah. I think it's hard. I think too often people try to, in whatever business they're in, appeal to everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. And I think it's okay to appeal to people that you want to appeal to and then go all in on that.
Yep. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, and people call it different things, but it's really about speaking to your target audience and who you want to connect with, whether that's on social media or like in a publication or wherever it is. And I was talking to a client a few days ago, and she helps train a lot of female business owners on social media marketing and that kind of stuff. And she called that a call out, like you're calling out a specific group of people, right? So say you're doing something for Homeowners Empower Ranch, right? Like you'd want to say,